Hey everybody, Paul here, What I Fix Daily. Alright, we've got an iPhone 6 that's just been dropped off at 8 o'clock at night, and this one just all of a sudden stopped charging, stopped booting, got hot, this is what I was told. Now, I went back through my system and I found that I pre-diagnosed this ages ago as having either a battery, dock, or a tristar fault. So let's see what we're up to there. That was back in May. So they've done a pretty good job getting this far. So plug this in. And we've got no charge. Turn it around the other way just to be sure. And still no charge. Alright. Let's see if we can power it up. And we get the please attach power logo coming up. Alright. Pop it open and have a look. Depending on the nature of the tristar fault, sometimes people can last quite a while without having to have it repaired. Particularly if it's something like a do not drop below 5% type fault, and you have people who are good at keeping their phones charged, then they don't really run into the problem. But it looks like now it's gone critical. Alright, my guess is I've inspected this before. Well, I know I have. But I didn't do any pulling apart. So we'll go through the sequence of checking the battery, and checking the dock, and if they both turn out okay, then we'll pull it out and try the tristar. Better go get a battery and a dock. Okay, we got our battery, we got our dock, and let's see, let's go for the battery first. More than likely I did do these steps earlier. Now this could be a little bit deceptive if we have a situation whereby the battery activates the tristar, or has enough voltage rather. iPhone 6 battery. You don't want to fit in like an iPhone 6. Come on. Nope. Yeah, I was just a bit reluctant. Boots. Let's see if we can feel where that heat might have been coming from. Let's have a look at the charge dock. Still got nothing coming out through the dock. Well, still nothing on the dock, on the charge. Still nothing. No. Alright. Turn that off. I can definitely feel I must have tested the dock before because that came off really easy. Hello. Now you're going. Maybe you are just the dock. Okay, we're going to give that a few minutes. Let's see if that brings us up to boot. The charge rate seems appropriate. It's 930 odd milliamp. I should drop down a bit now. Yep. Okay, I'm just going to turn this off. Okay, so we'll go for a dock change. Certainly I hope it's that. One thing we can do is, now that we have put charge into the battery, let us plug in the existing dock again and see if it charges up. And we do. This is fun. I cannot say with any certainty if that battery is actually at fault. I mean the dock. It's entirely possible that by placing the good new battery in, that I somehow managed to make the tristar activate. Maybe there was enough residual charge. Not sure. Going to use our little discharger here. See if we can bring this battery down. Hopefully that is indeed a success one. Oh, sorry, 6 rather. Fairly sure it is. Could be wrong. It would appear I am not correct. I need to discharge this battery a little quicker, so I've got myself a load. This is a 5 ohm load that will produce around about 800 milliamp discharge rate. We just have to wire it into here. Can be a really coarse job. This is not a critical situation. I may even be able to do this without using the microscope. So in the past I had no trouble doing this without the microscope. These days, oops. Great. Smoke everywhere. Now the fun part. Joining it up to the existing pack without disconnecting the existing cables. It's one. Nope, that was not one. Looks like microscope time. And, well, polarity doesn't matter on this anyway. Hopefully that is a statement that will not bite me in the butt later, in a year or two. It's the sort of thing where you're like, I'll be right. And then you wire up something wrong. Come on. There we go. Okay, so we've got our load. We've got a connector at the end there, so we can take either polarity of things. We do have a different adapter that we can use. I saw it just on the other side of the workbench somewhere. There we go. Looks like exactly the same thing as the one we've got, except the difference is I've added this 2-pin header and connected it up. Alright, should start feeling some warmth. Not sure why I haven't. Oh, I see, I disconnected that. We're definitely getting a little bit warm there. Yep, that's doing the job. The thing is, I kind of want a resistor across there, something like. Wonder what size that is. That's already on there. Just so we have an LED indicator. 102, so that's a 1K resistor. So if we just put a 0K short there, that should theoretically give us our light. Let's try it. There we go. Yep, we can see it. That's what we want. So we'll just disconnect that again. There was a poly fuse across there at some point. There is not anymore. The 1206 is going to be a little bit small, but it should just reach. What's usually there is a 2512. Yeah, we can just make that. And look, we've got our friendly bugs here again. I don't know what's happened to the microscope, but it seems to have drifted out of focus a little bit there. Not sure why. I'm sort of at the bottom of my focal range there. I'll tell you what, we'll push it up a bit. Okay, problem solved. Except now I've lost that 1206 resistor. There it is. It's going to be a stretch, but it'll make it. That was just to tack it down. Big blob, big blob. We're good. Okay, now we should be able to connect up our battery, and we should get a red LED come up to say we've got current flowing. There we go. So what should happen here is the battery pack will be discharging and will approach about 2.7, 2.8 volts, at which point the protection circuitry that's located in this portion up here of the battery, that will activate, or I should rather say disconnect the output from the input. Now resistors are getting warm. That's good. Worth taking a moment, check the pack voltage, make sure we're not going too low, make sure things got a chance of working right. Let's see. We're at 3.2 and that's under load, so we've probably a little bit further to go. Yep. And those resistors are pretty warm. Probably sitting at around about 50 degrees at the moment. Realistically, I should make a proper in-out interface and load type board configuration, something that has, that doesn't leave me having to build up these sort of little jig type configurations each time I need something new. But unfortunately, what often happens is you build something like that and you end up with a new device that needs something new on it, and you still end up making little wire looms and setups. But this is a fairly common process, so I really need to, in this case I would say, put a load resistor pair like this onto something that can plug into the micro USB port there. That would be a practical option, which means it would then also work for unmodified boards such as this one, and I've got a few other different type ones. The other option I could try is to also have a micro USB to USB-A socket cable, so that I can just run the cable from there into one of these load boards. Also, there's the dummy load board. It will just continue to draw power no matter what, and this is the intelligent one, which will shut out at about 3.7 volts. So in this case we would be using something like this. Essentially this is just a more glorified version of our dual load resistors here. Let's check that voltage again. .88. It's going to cut off soon. Let's see what this battery is doing. It's got to be getting close. Got to be getting close. .54. That's should have shut out by now. Alright. Clearly the cutout circuitry is not quite working there. Disconnect that. Good thing we checked it. It may be that the battery will float back up to 2.7 or something like that. Alright. Now what we need to check here is, remember, this is the original dock. Let's see if it charges again. We have no charge. Okay. Disconnect the battery. Disconnect the dock. Ow. Fingernails are good. Sometimes they don't quite work. Either that or you don't have enough of a fingernail, and instead of using your fingernail to get it out, you end up embedding it in your flesh to get it out. Alright. New dock in. Flat battery in. So here we go. Alright, looks like we've got a dock problem then, because that's come up good in spite of it being a flat battery, which means it's very unlikely to be the tristar. Well, we saved ourselves pulling out the board and doing the soldering. To be fair, on the iPhone 6 I don't mind doing the tristar. Alright, so what we've got to do here is just change the dock after all that. It's interesting to note, when I look over the old, and I think back on the previous attempt of finding out what was going on here, I do note in the documents that it could be either of them. So I suspect maybe I actually didn't open up the phone at that point. Rather instead I just looked at the behavior and gave them the options. Potentially you could do this without taking the screen off. I just prefer to take the screen off, as it saves like accidentally knocking it, tearing the cables, damaging the screen. Okay, so what we're doing here is changing the dock. Well, it's not a very interesting job, but it's still a money maker. Sometimes I wish these would turn into more interesting jobs like tristar. But then again, tristar's starting to wear a bit thin. I shouldn't say that. I should be thankful for every job I get. It's amazing how many screws are in these things. The dock, along with the antenna section up here, it's always a lot more screws than what you'd expect. Okay, time to get it out. Transfer across our sealing gasket. Try not to distort it too much. Now this isn't a colour matched dock replacement. This is actually a darker grey instead of a light grey. Unfortunately, I have found myself in a situation where I didn't have the one I wanted on hand. Thankfully I already checked with the customer, they really don't mind. As far as they're concerned, they just want a working phone. But of course it's important to make them aware of that, give them the option if you can. You never know, it could be a phone that they're really not caring about and they're willing to wait a couple of weeks. Or in my case it would only be a couple of days. So get all the alignments right. I'll get this microphone correctly connected up, otherwise it hears nothing. Again, sorry about the focus. I'll fix it up in a little bit. Okay, so you're in good. Might as well reassemble it under the microscope. And this, for these particular screws, it's a little hard because the screwdriver does bump into the top, and I don't think you can get a realistic bent drive screwdriver for this sort of size. Now you can get them for bigger ones. Okay, let's go back to the normal view. I did have a first today. I got to see a iPhone 8 Plus opened up. Wasn't mine. It was a local student at one of the schools, and they bought themselves a replacement screen and whatnot. But unfortunately, they didn't have a tri-wing driver, so they popped around to make use of the one I've got, which I've been using for the iPhone 7s. It's good to see the iPhone 8 is mostly similar on the inside. It was a good thing he did come around though, because getting that home button off was pretty much like with the 7. You got to go easy on it. So I used a bit of hot air to soften up that glue bonding pad, so that when lifting it off there was no tension put against the little controller chip on that flex. Would have been a real shame for him to get everything replaced only to find that the home button no longer worked. That's the sort of thing that makes the heart sink. I do wonder what on earth is wrong with this flex. Guess probably not really much point finding out. Now I do need to get this retainer clip off. Naturally, once again, I've forgotten to do it before I put all this stuff down because it... Come on, can we do it? In a way, this is a bit like forgetting to do the earpiece flex on a iPhone 4S at times. Come on, can you get on there? So I'm going to have to undo that. Maybe you can actually fit them on there even after you've screwed down the speaker. I've never had a lot of success doing that. Not without causing distortion, as in bending that metal clip. I have no doubt people are happy to leave it off, but I just feel better if I know it's on. It's so easy when you remember in the first place. Alright, now we can go for it. I wonder if this person will be happy to pick it up at, what is it, 9 o'clock? Yeah. I'm sure people are happy to pick up things at that hour. Late night shopping at this hour, the shops wouldn't be shut. Okay, that's down. Time to go to the microscope and put that antenna coaxial cable in. Just drop you in there. Good. Now, because this has never been clipped in before, it's going to be a little reluctant sometimes. There we go. Got lucky that time. And I do like to transfer the foam pad across. We got lucky there too. Brilliant. And the other one. This one here. I found these ones can be quite difficult to get off without tearing up. Come on. Slow and steady. temperature. Beautiful. Okay, so we're back to the normal, let's put the screen back on type situation. The only thing that concerns me about this whole repair is I am unsure as to why it got hot. That bit does bother me. It may be that they're running, I think it was iOS 11.1.2 or something like that, and it had a bit of a habit of making the phone get hot, or it could be something else. It could also be a case of, because the phone died, they then took notice of things that were going on around with the phone. Okay. Guess we should charge it up just to be sure. Marvelous. And because we discharged that quite low, that's probably, I wouldn't be surprised if it takes 250, 300 milliamp hour put into the battery before it fires up. And when it fires up, we still have to test that the microphone works and the speaker. So here we go. Alright, looks like we got a boot happening. Once this is booted, we'll check to see that the microphone works and the speaker. And if that's all good, we'll take it out. It was interesting here. At first I thought that actually probably would have been a tristar, particularly given that they said that it got warm. So I thought maybe the tristar had finally given up in a different way and was starting to discharge everything so quickly that it wasn't even able to put any sort of meaningful charge into the battery. So it was important that we did the pulling apart and checking with the dock and then the battery and discharging the battery and back and forth like that to verify what our diagnosis was. To be fair, the original one was back in May last year, so a lot of things could have changed. In fact, you never know, the person may have gone to another repair person, and so the internals themselves could have changed there. So on my list of things to do, I need to make an improved discharge tool. Thankfully leaded points there are not sharp enough to scratch those screens. Just to make it so that it's easier for me to do this particular diagnosis, and I may make it so I have a second end up here like this one has, and that can go straight to the multimeter so I can keep track of the voltage. Because as we saw tonight, even though normally the pack should disconnect after around about 2.75, it didn't seem to be doing that. So we can't trust that, in which case having the multimeter handy is very good. Therefore at a glance I can turn around and say, okay, that's going a little bit too far. The other option I could have taken is to create one of these dischargers and set the trip voltage to around about 2.7 volts, maybe even 2.5, and use that instead. Anyway, we'll leave that for later. In the meantime, good to see that we got a repair done.